What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of The Growth Blueprint. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what if it doesn't work? What if it stops working? What if I get stuck? And if you've never asked yourself this question, then consider yourself lucky, because the vast majority of people at some point in a health and fitness or weight loss journey get stuck, and what they were doing stops working. And that sucks, because that's really discouraging. And so in this episode, I want to talk about, first of all, thinking through what if it doesn't work, right? So a fear of starting, and what if it stops working, right? Which can also be tied back to that fear of starting, because you may have gotten stuck in the past and something may have not worked for you. And so we're going to talk about both mindset and physiology, so we can understand how to frame our mind correctly around this, and then the physiology to help us understand why this happens, because it is completely normal. So spoiler alert, everybody gets stuck, and everything stops working at some point. And so that's kind of where I want to jump into this with this mindset, right? Is if you haven't gotten stuck, you will. If something hasn't stopped working, it will. And that's totally normal. And one of the most powerful frames to think about this is from this guy named Jim Rohn. He's a motivational speaker, a personal development guy, and he uses this story about not giving up and continuing to try. And he says, how many times would you give a baby chances to learn how to walk before you shut it off? And everybody laughs, and because it's a ridiculous question. You said, well, my baby's going to walk. My baby's going to take as many times as it takes to try to learn before they figure out how to walk. And with health and fitness, it's exactly the same way, because there's no real one-size-fits-all solution to weight loss, right? We're all individuals. We all have different things going on, just like the way that a baby learns how to walk is going to be unique. Where they learn how to walk, exactly how they learn how to walk. There are some similarities, right? They're going to wiggle around, and then they're going to crawl, and then they're going to start to learn how to stand up, and then they're going to start to fall over, and then they're going to learn how to start to fall over less, and they're going to start to take their first steps, right? So there's a process that most people, or most babies, right, go through as they learn how to walk, but the nuance of a specific situation is very, very different from baby to baby, and with health and fitness, from individual to individual. And so, getting comfortable with the fact that the first thing that you try probably isn't going to work, and that's okay, is really important, because I like to say, this is something new that I've started to say, but health and fitness is kind of the gateway drug to personal development. And for those of you that maybe are starting on a health and fitness journey and have gone through some personal development of your own, it takes work, and the first thing that you try might not work. And maybe that's with a relationship, maybe that's with dating, maybe that's with, I guess the only example I can think of is with relationships. Maybe that's with your mental health, maybe, and so it's a process of learning, and it's a process of growing. And so getting accustomed to the fact that the first thing that you try isn't probably going to be the first thing that works is okay, but we have to have that growth mindset to accept the fact that we need to learn from the first thing that we do that doesn't work, so that we can do better the next time, right? And so what if it doesn't work? What if I get stuck? You probably will, right? And so what's important is that you start out or continue this journey that you're on, understanding that that is probably going to happen, so that you can be aware of it, so that when it does happen, you're not surprised by it, right? Because what happens is a lot of people get all fired up about starting something, and they start something. I mean, it's the end of February right now, so most people have probably fallen off of their New Year's resolutions around health and fitness anyway. And, understanding that, okay, what I'm going to try is going to get me so far, and then I'm going to get stuck, and I'm going to need to change something. That is what you have to embody and really internalize so that you can be successful with your health and fitness long term, right? I mean, if I could say, look, you're going to have your dream body, right? But I guarantee you're going to have your dream body 100%. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to look amazing. Everybody else is going to tell you that you look amazing. You know, your significant other is going to tell you that you look amazing. Your kids are going to look up to you. Other people are going to want to be you. Other people are going to ask for your advice. All of these things are going to happen, but it's going to suck for 3 years. Most people wouldn't sign that contract, right? Or some people might, but the reality of it is that most people don't do that. Most people aren't willing to do that. But if you could deal with it for 3 years, you would get there, right? And so this mindset of understanding that the perfect thing is going to take a lot of time to figure out is really, really important. And so now I kind of want to talk about those stages. So using the reference of a baby learning how to walk, right? They're going to learn how to move themselves around on the floor, right? All babies are going to learn how to do that. All babies are then going to learn how to, roll over, how to push themselves up, how to get upright, right? How to crawl. All babies are going to learn how to stand up, right? Then they're going to start to learn how to take their first steps. These phases are the same. And so just like weight loss, there are some phases that everybody needs to go through so that we can start to learn how to make this thing a long-term successful process for you, okay? And so this is the same process that I use with all of my clients. And so I want to walk you through this so that you can understand how it works and understand what these phases look like, so you can start to put yourself through these phases of learning how to do this whole weight loss and health and fitness thing in a sustainable way, with the mindset of the first thing that we try isn't going to work and you will get stuck, but we have to progress through these phases, okay? And so the first phase, I have just termed something called baseline, okay? And this is just an understanding of what your body needs to exist currently, the way that things are, okay? And so this isn't like what it takes to get you to lose weight. This is just what your body needs to exist the way that it's existing right now, okay? And so, your health and fitness is a consequence of your daily habits that you currently have. And so taking an inventory of your daily habits right now. And so how many times are we exercising, right? How much protein are we consuming? How many calories are we consuming? Okay. And these are the fundamental variables that we need to get numbers to, so we can start to understand what are my current habits that are leading to this current state of being with my health and fitness. And so this is the first phase that all of my clients go through, okay? And so first of all, we need to understand where we're at so that we can understand what we need to do to get to where we want to go, rather than just arbitrarily picking something, okay? And so if we can figure out first where we're at and say, okay, I want to lose 60 pounds. Okay, well, what is causing us to be 60 pounds heavier than we want to be? What does our exercise look like? What does our calories look like? What does our protein look like? And so we can start to look at these things and assess, okay, this is what is keeping me where I'm at. Then once we understand where we're at, we can start to make some changes. And so the next phase that we go through with all of my clients is we start to establish a consistent exercise routine. Okay, and this doesn't need to be fancy. I have people anywhere from just doing 10 minutes of exercise every morning, right after they get up, to going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week for an hour and a half, okay? And so it doesn't matter what it looks like. We just have to start doing something. And so if you're not currently exercising, I would say let's just start doing 100 bodyweight squats and 100 wall push-ups every single morning to start to establish a routine, okay? And not try to do too much too quickly, because if we do too much too quickly, we're gonna get burnt out. We're not gonna like how we feel. It's gonna wear on us. It's gonna kick our butt, and we're not gonna want to keep doing it, okay? And so again, remember, this is a process of learning, of personal development, of growth, of trial and error. And so we can do this in a slow and controlled way so we don't get burnt out, so that we can be successful long term. Okay, and so we start to establish a consistent exercise routine. And usually at the same time, we start to try and figure out how we can integrate more protein into our nutrition. Okay, and so again, back to the phases of the baby learning how to walk, right? We need to be exercising consistently, some sort of exercise. It doesn't really matter what it is, just some sort of exercise. Just like a baby isn't going to skip from laying on the ground to crawling without wiggling around first, right? Without kind of, you know, doing the thing across the floor that babies do between laying on the floor and crawling, right? There's a phase they go through of just learning how to move their body, right? This is that phase. This is consistent exercise of some kind. Does not matter what it is. The most important thing is consistency of the thing, okay? And learning how to integrate more protein into our lifestyle. And so for the vast majority of people, starting to drink a protein shake every day is something that is super, super beneficial. And my favorite protein shake recipe is yogurt, chia seeds, protein powder, frozen fruit of some kind, and half a banana, okay? And do that for breakfast, all right? Or whatever meal you're skipping, because most of you are probably skipping a meal. Let's be honest, right? And so now we can start to do that. And so we can say, okay, we knew what the steady state looked like before. Now we've made some changes. We're moving consistently. We've paid attention to our protein intake. Now what has happened? What's happened to our body weight? What's happened to the way that we feel? How has this changed things? Okay, and so this is the first step towards moving in that positive direction. And so now we can say, okay, well, maybe we want to do a little bit more workouts, or increase the intensity of our exercise. At this point, we've established a routine around exercise, okay, and we've started to integrate more protein into our lifestyle. We're consistent with these things, okay? We're consistent with these things. We feel good about these things. They're happening on a regular basis. We're being consistent. Now that we're being consistent with these things, we can start to further change what's going on. And so now at this point, we might start to optimize our exercise for the goals that we might have. And so, you know, if you want to build a toned, strong physique that looks good in less clothes, right? We probably need to do a little bit more than just bodyweight squats and wall push-ups, right? And this is very individualized, right? I mean, if you've got 200 pounds to lose, maybe we just stick with the air squats and wall push-ups for a while, right? And maybe if we are just trying to build a routine because we need to get back into the habit of lifting weights, right? We don't need to do the air squats and wall push-ups for as long before we start to move on to something else. So again, very individualized, and this is where that trial and error comes in, and getting comfortable with trying stuff that doesn't work and then trying something else based on what we've learned about what didn't work, okay? And so at this phase, we can start to increase the intensity of our exercise. Maybe we're going to do more air squats and wall push-ups. Maybe we're going to do them more frequently every single day. Maybe we're going to start to integrate in some extra walking. Maybe we're going to actually go to the gym once or twice a week. And so now we can start to kind of step things up a little bit and further see how the changes that we're making in our habits are leading to alterations in the outcomes that we're achieving, okay? And so as we're starting to change our exercise, oftentimes what we start to do as well is start to play with more nutrition stuff. And so let's say that we've also started drinking a protein shake every morning. Well, now we can also start to make some alterations in the right direction of maybe we start to try and cook more of our meals ourselves, right? And we start eating less fast food. Maybe if we're already cooking our meals, we start to try and focus on more protein-rich meals, more stuff that's focused on whole foods, things with more fruits and vegetables in them, stuff with lots of protein in it, okay? And now we can pick on some of these things and start to integrate those into our lifestyle and see how we can start to progress now. Okay, so let's say that we've been consistent with that. Now we are a crawling baby, right? Where we're able to move around a little bit more. We're able to get from point A to point B as a baby crawling, okay? We've made some progress. All right, and now we're controlling more of our nutrition. We're controlling more of our schedule. We're getting more quality movement in. We're moving forward as far as that goes. We're starting to maybe see some weight loss changes. We're starting to feel stronger, have more energy, feel a little bit better, but we're not where we want to be, right? We're not walking yet. We're still a crawling baby, which is great. It's better than just laying on the floor on our back, right? If we see something across a room, we can crawl over there and go get it, right? But we're not running around walking yet, okay? But we're an awful lot more mobile. So next step is we start to try to play around with something called a calorie deficit. And a calorie deficit is where we consume less calories than we're eating, which is what causes our body to lose weight, okay? And so our body's like an eternal battery. You can think about it like that. When we don't get enough energy to do a day's worth of activity, we don't just shut off and die like your phone does when it runs out of battery, okay? What happens when we run out of energy is we actually have a secondary battery in the form of fat tissue that our body then draws energy out of to supply the difference between what we consumed and what we need to fulfill the existence of being alive for a day, okay? And so when there's a discrepancy between what is needed and what is consumed, okay, the difference is energy that is pulled from our body tissue in the form of fat, for the most part, and utilized for the rest of that energy. And so this is the learning how to stand up part of a baby's journey, okay? And so this is kind of difficult because we've been consistent with all this stuff up to this point, but now we're gonna throw a curveball into things and say, well, now we need to change our nutrition a little bit, okay? And so again, this is why it's important to keep track of all these things that we're doing so that we can understand how to do this next step in a way that's going to work well for you. Because I could tell you, I want you to eat one donut every day, nothing else for 90 days. One donut a day. As much water as you want and one donut a day. You would lose a ton of weight. I guarantee it. But you would get super sick. You'd probably end up in the hospital. It'd be awful. But you'd lose a ton of weight because we're in a giant calorie deficit. Obviously, that's not a smart thing to do. But most people do something that's just as stupid, to be completely honest with you. They pick some kind of diet that's super restrictive, that doesn't make them feel good, that probably doesn't contain foods that they enjoy, and is in a giant calorie deficit. Most people diet the same, it's as ridiculous as it is to say eat one donut a day for 90 days. Okay, and so we don't want to do that. Some of you have probably done that, and it sucks, right? It's not fun to get 90 days into a diet and then get stuck and be like, why am I doing this? I hate everything about this, right? Duh, right? And so now, as we're starting to learn to stand up as a baby, okay, we need to start to say, okay, how can I reduce my calorie intake while not screwing up my protein? And this is the next phase that's rather difficult, okay? Because we need to keep our protein high so we can support muscle mass, keep our muscles healthy, because keeping muscles healthy is why we feel good. It's why our energy has gotten better. It's what leads to that toned physique. Toned is a function of two things. One is having muscle mass to show, and two is being lean enough to show it off, okay? If you don't have the muscle mass to show, you're not gonna be toned. And having that muscle mass to show is exercise and protein, okay? And so that's why we focus on exercise and protein at the beginning, so that we can get used to getting lots of protein in, and we can get some routine around exercise going on as well. And so now we start to say, okay, how can I consume less calories every day and still prioritize my protein? And again, this is very individualized. This is like, I can't tell you exactly what's gonna work for you without working with you on this topic, right? But this is the next phase. How do I keep protein up and how do I bring calories down? Okay, and there's a bajillion ways to accomplish this, right? Maybe you could start to eat leaner cuts of meat, right? Stuff that's got less fat in it. That's gonna reduce our calorie intake. Maybe you reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you're consuming, because that's going to reduce the amount of calories that we're consuming. There's a million ways that you can accomplish this. And so it's very individualized based on what does your current circumstance look like. Now, to be really tactical for a second, I usually recommend 500 calories in a deficit. So that means that the difference between what is needed and what is consumed is 500 calories, okay? And this is going to be a sustainable rate of weight loss. This is going to lead to about a pound of body fat lost every single week. And you're not gonna feel like shit as you're doing this because we're not in a 1,000 calorie deficit, which is gonna suck. That's gonna feel really bad, being in a 1,000 calorie deficit. That's not gonna be fun. A 500 calorie deficit is pretty doable. and you're still gonna feel pretty good. You're gonna be a little bit hungry, but you're not gonna be drained. You're not gonna feel sick. You're not gonna get sick. And so that's what I would aim for if you're tracking your macros and tracking your calories, is 500 calories less per day than you're consuming right now. So let's say we take the time to figure this out. This might take a week or two to really get a handle on how do I keep my protein up and how do I bring my calories down. Once we figure out how to accomplish that, next we move on to something that I call the Matador. And now this isn't something that I've come up with, and this isn't necessarily something you have to do, but it works pretty well. And what it is it's a process meant to delay and prevent metabolic adaptation. And now metabolic adaptation is the thing that causes plateaus. And so if you've ever gotten stuck before and something has stopped working, it's due to something called metabolic adaptation. Now, metabolic adaptation is a process through which your hormones change to make you want to eat more. Your body, your nervous system, your brain down-regulates the amount of subconscious movement that you're doing. So like I'm gesturing while I'm talking. It's a whole bunch of processes that your body goes through in an attempt to cause you to burn less calories. And so if we're in this 500 calorie deficit, okay, and metabolic adaptation starts to occur, the amount of calories needed is going to start to drop and drop and drop and drop until the amount of calories consumed matches the amount of calories needed. Well, now we're not in a deficit anymore. And now we're not going to be losing any weight, right? And this is called a plateau. And this is when we get stuck and something stops working. And this is really frustrating, right? And so to prevent this, we do something called the Matador. And so the Matador is this process of going from where everything is consistent and we feel good before we figured out how to do a calorie deficit. And we say, okay, now I know how to do a calorie deficit. Now I'm gonna do a calorie deficit for 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna come back up to what I was doing, okay? And by doing so, by dropping and coming back up, dropping and coming back up, dropping and coming back up, we're going to burn fat and then let our body recover. We're gonna burn fat, and then we're gonna let our body recover. We're gonna burn fat, and we're gonna let our body recover. And so instead of just burning fat and running our body into the ground so that this slowly drops, by bringing this back up, bringing our calorie intake back up to normal, okay, this is going to prevent this from dropping, right? You can kind of think about it like this keeps knocking this back up, okay? Like this. When we bring calories back up, it's lifting this back up, burn calories, burn fat, burn fat, burn fat, elevate calories, burn fat, burn fat, burn fat, elevate calories, burn fat, burn fat, burn fat, okay? And so then we can go through this process of the Matador. Now that we have good exercise routine, we know how to control protein, we're controlling our nutrition, we're controlling our caloric intake, things are going well, and we can do this Matador back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until we can get close and achieve our goal weight. Okay, and then once we achieve our goal weight, it's as simple as coming back up to this thing that we've established where we're eating the foods that we like in amounts that are making us feel good, our body weight is staying nice and stable, our exercise is supporting our goals, and we're happy, we're chilling right here, and this is how we maintain. Okay, and so now at this point, once we've learned how to do this calorie deficit and learned how to maintain, we've gotten to the point where we're able to start walking around as a baby, right? We've achieved success. We've gone through these phases of learning how to do this stuff correctly in ways that fit our circumstances as individuals so that we can achieve the outcome of the health and fitness and the physique that you want, okay? And so again, right? Just like a baby is going to try and 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 learn 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 until they start to make progress through the stages of learning how to crawl, you know, learning how to move around, learning how to stand up, learning how to take their first steps, learning how to walk. You need to start to learn how to do some of these fundamentals of health and fitness, of nutrition and exercise, so that you can start to progress towards being able to have the skills required to be successful on your health and fitness and weight loss journeys. And so again, just to remind you, it's probably not going to work the first time you try, and you're probably going to get stuck. But the point is not to just hit the jackpot right off the bat. The point is to move forward with a growth mindset, with the understanding that things are not going to be perfect, but you're not going to stop trying, you're not going to stop learning Just like the baby learning how to walk is not going to quit until they learn how to do it, you must also do the same. So that's what I got for you today. If that was worth your time, as I hope it was, because your time is your most valuable resource, please share it with somebody. Rate the show. That would be huge for me. It means a lot to review the show, to share it with someone, share it on your Instagram story, share it on Facebook, to get the word out, to help more people understand how to integrate these principles of nutrition and exercise, of physiology, of how their body works, so that they can become the people that they want to be, so they can be the examples that they want to be, so that they can teach other people how to do this, so that we don't have to be victims of poor health and fitness. So I appreciate all of you, and I'll see y'all in the next one.